Amazing. Okay, so I'm gonna talk really quickly. I'll be explaining things as we go along. And the most important thing, I guess, for this session is that, first of all, you understand how a typical session with like you being the PM and everybody else working with you is in reality. And then we are going to start to look at the Figma and how we can translate that into tickets. I don't think we'll have enough time to go over everything in this session, but of course I will extend my time. I'm sorry if you guys are not able to extend your time, but we'll do our best. And for everyone on this call, you can have access to the recording. So I just don't think it will go beyond this call because this is actual intellectual property. Okay, so let's get started. What you're looking at is Kanban. If you've read through all the material, you should have come across Kanban at some point. There are two main, I mean, there's more than two, but like most of the time they'll be asking you if you can work in Scrum methodology or Kanban methodology. Don't worry, Alice, we lost you for
the privacy thing wouldn't let me in unless I logged out, so I did that, but
it's okay, don't worry. We just got started, so yeah, there's two methods. So you have the Kanban method, the Scrum method. There's other kinds. You have Lean as well, but we're not going to explore that because most of the time you won't be required to explore that unless you're like in a highly specialized environment, like defense and stuff like that. That's where they tend to use Lean. But you can also read up on Lean if you're familiar with Kanban and Scrum. It's just something that you can catch up on fairly quickly. So with Kanban, the idea is like you can't change the scope of the project. You have to complete the board first before you can add more things to it. And when I say more things, I mean like things like tickets or projects. You can't change the scope. With Scrum, however, Scrum is like an agile way of working. So you can change the scope, essentially. You can add more things whilst you're still within the sprint. I know that we covered sprints last time, but let me just recap what a sprint is. A sprint is essentially a period of time that you complete projects in. So it's literally just fancy words for regular things. So most companies' sprints are standard 2 weeks. In those 2 weeks, what that looks like is as the PM, again, recap of Christiana's lecture, as the PM, what will happen is that you have maybe like a list of things that the directors want to do and like you want to achieve for the product. So let's use Summon Dating for an example. We want to launch the onboarding, okay? Everybody has access to that link. You can click on it. The Figma link, sorry. So let's say we wanted to launch the onboarding aspect of the product, and we've given ourselves 2 weeks to do it. As the PM, you have to ask yourself, how much of that onboarding can we get done within those 2 weeks? And that 2 weeks is the sprint, okay? So you have to decide the length of your sprints before you even decide on any project. So some companies, you'll see they have 1 month sprints. It's rare, but it's possible. Some people have 3-week sprints. Some people have 1-week sprints. The standard, again, is 2 weeks, and we'll talk about why in a second. So with Kanban, you can have your 2 weeks Kanban, but we're not working in Kanban for the purpose of this. I think it's better we work in Agile Scrum. So we need a Scrum board instead of a Kanban board. Let me see if I can get one up. Jira can be very confusing. Don't worry if you don't remember everything in Jira. Even developers who use it every day don't remember everything, and they'll ask the most stupid questions as well, like, how do we do this? How do we do that? That's fine. Just every time you ask it, if you're fairly new, just say, oh, like, it's been a while since I used Jira or something. Like, don't let them think you're out here being, So let's see if we can find the Scrum. Can you search Scrum on there? Let me see if we can.
Yep. Scrum.
Maybe try projects on the left-hand side.
On the left, view all projects.
No, just the projects bit, perhaps.
Oh, yeah. Here.
Let's see.
And then, is it search here? Search board?
Yeah. No. That's still Kanban. I feel like you're in a completely different. I feel like you're in a full-on Kanban board. Let me see if I can pull it up on my thing. Let me log in here. Okay, so I've got my backlog. Can you go to projects again? Are you on projects?
Yep. Projects.
Let me see what that looks like. Can you click on my Kanban project, the 3 dots next to my Kanban project at the top?
At the top. Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, right there. Let's see. Try project settings.
Yeah.
Ah, that is killing me. What is that? Project key can. No, I don't know how you got here. Wait, go back again.
Okay.
Let me maybe put something in here to manage projects. Okay, so if you go to project again, you see the 3 dots next to project on the, go to manage projects
Manage projects.
in the options that just opened.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah.
No worries. Let's try and create a project. Create project at the top, right there. The hell? Go back if you can. IT service management.
So X, yeah.
How do we add a new project? Try create plus at the top.
Oh sorry. Create plus.
Create right at the top. Yeah.
Is this it?
Click on take out my Kanban project. For the life of me, I don't know how that happened. Scroll up again. Let's look at the option. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, it's only going to show us what we already have. Okay, here's what we're going to do. I'll just make a link and put it in here. And let's hope it lets you do it. So we don't have time. So the tickets on here will already be written. But it's fine. Can you guys click on that? Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Okay. Great. So that is a Scrum project. Yeah, I feel like this is weird because your templates should say Scrum. Can you click on more templates? Sorry. Just one last try before I give more templates on the right, to the right.
To the right, okay. Oh yeah, here.
More templates.
More templates, yeah.
And that's it. That's all you have. Okay. Well, let me share my screen then. And
Okay.
just keep it pushing. Window, that. Okay. You see that right there? It should have that.
Okay.
I don't understand how that happened. But okay. So this is our project, Summon. This is what it should look like. Normally you would use the backlog. Okay. This is your backlog. This is your board. Your board will show you everything that's happening here. Your goal as a PM is simple. It's to get everything from to do to done.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what will happen here? How did we come across this board? How did this board even happen? In the backlog, when you open your project, it should show you this would all be empty. There should be nothing in here. I wanted you to see the empty state so that you're familiar with it, but obviously. So how did all these tickets appear? We click on create. We have our project here, Scrum, not Kanban. And then let's then we choose the kind of ticket that we're writing. As you guys know, there's like those 4 different tickets. If you've read your modules, you should already have come across this. You have the task, you have a bug, you have a story, you have an epic. In the status, again, this is going to be to do, in progress, done. It's not your job to select things to be in progress or to be done. I'm going to show you in a second how that works out. Your job is just to write the ticket, so that will automatically go to do. Then you have your summary. The summary of the ticket is just the title of the ticket. The summary of the ticket, you'll phrase that depending on what kind of ticket it is. So this is essential, okay? So you know how you have your task, your bug, your story, your epic. Let's see, let me show you in practice how that works, and then I will give you guys one to do as well. So who has the Figma? Can you share your screen and let's have a look at the Figma? I think it should allow 2 people to share at the same time, so it'll be fine. Gloria, can you hear me?
Sorry. Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. It says I will take over as main presenter.
Okay, that's fine. Let's just see. Let's see how that experience works out.
So, click the link.
Yeah.
Gosh, it's not working.
Mm,
Is
What's
it this link?
yeah, summon dating. Yeah, that's it.
Um, okay.
Share. Are you on it?
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, I think you canceled it.
Sorry, it was mirroring. So now you can just see the window. Right? Can everyone see the window?
Yeah. Can you try going on welcome page to the left?
Okay.
On the left side, you have welcome page designs. Yeah, click on welcome page. Is that it? Designs, yeah, maybe. Yeah, there it is. Okay, just zoom in all the way to the top. Yes. So that is our onboarding right now. Okay. That's what the onboarding looks like. Let me give you some context as to how I'm launching Summon, because that would be helpful. The idea is this. There are many dating apps out there. We don't want another dating app because everyone has dating app fatigue. If I launched another dating app, most people would just be like, here we go again, we're tired. So the idea behind this is that, well, 2 things. One is that I didn't have money to build an app. And for me to validate whether or not I should build an app, I need to find out how many people are actually interested in this as, someone as an idea. So what we're doing right now is launching, it's not even an MVP, it's a POC, a proof of concept, to see if people's interest is actually high enough for us to invest in an app, because that costs a lot of money to build. And that's why I've decided to do this. So what I've decided to do is go out and market to people that Summon is the dating app without the app. I'm leaning into people's desires for partnership, but also their self-centeredness in a way. And why I say that is you see all the videos about centering yourself, decentering men, things like that. So what if we had an app where people just sign up, they don't download anything, they go away, live their best life, and only get notified when we find what they're looking for? And this is essentially combining product management with marketing, because that is what product management is. So you're thinking about, like, how do we launch with the resources we have? I have 0 resources. I have a co-founder who said, I will build your POC for you, and we can see if it's successful, then we'll go ahead and build an app. But you see, what's key there is that if it's successful, so you have to set your success metric before you even decide. Because if we got 10,000 users, how do we know that that's a good thing? That might be exciting, but like, how do we know that that's actually our threshold for building the app? And so I decided, let's get 100,000 users. Initially it was 10, but then I said, let's get 100,000, and that will tell us, like, in the grand scheme of things, enough people want this product, enough people want to be able to say exactly what they're looking for in specificity and just go off and live their lives, not have to worry about swiping, not have to worry about paying for this upgrade or that upgrade or whatever, not having to do any of that. And then they only get summoned when we find what they're looking for. So if enough people want that, then we go ahead and build. So what you're seeing right now is essentially a fancy wait list. The wait list would have been a different way to do it. But a wait list is not enough to say that if we actually just tell people, put your email in this page, then let's go ahead and build an app. That means nothing. It takes no effort for me to put my email in a page. So while a wait list is good as a smoke test, it's not really a good way to go out and launch a whole new product. It might be a good way if they're already in your product and you're releasing a new feature, you could say, let's have a wait list, because people can just easily, I guess, put their email in there, but that doesn't, how do I say this? That's not, that doesn't mean that they won't use it because they already like your product. They're already passionate about your product. They're already using your product. So for a whole new product, instead of bringing out another wait list, which is a big mistake a lot of businesses do and a lot of product managers do, you need a fancier thing. And this is the fancier thing. So if you go through the steps, if you maybe try zooming out a little bit, Gloria. If you look at steps, you have 15 questions, simple, but also interesting in the sense that I'm not asking people about themselves. I am asking people to describe their dream partner to us. So instead of saying, upload your pictures, tell me where you're from, you're not auditioning to be picked. That's sort of the angle we're going with, and that's the marketing of it. You're just telling us what you're looking for and then going away. Now, will I still need their information? Yes, absolutely, because how will the algorithm work if it doesn't know who they are? But that's not the point. The point of this is that enough people need to be invested in this process so that we go, yes, we have enough. So think about the goal of what you're doing before you do it. And then when we're done and we have enough people who have answered this, we can still go back to them and say, okay, now we need your information. Now we need your pictures. But right now we don't need their pictures. So this is the thing. It's really about thinking creatively, thinking outside the box. And when you have enough practice with doing things like this for different kinds of products, you will start to see, like, the ideas like this, they'll start to come to you naturally, they'll start to emerge, and it'll be fine. So if you look at this onboarding form, look at the first question in it, it's the standard, oh, I'm interested in this, I'm interested in that. Look at the last 5 questions. Who pays on the first date? Those are questions that the dating apps are not really asking. And on some level, when I was wireframing this experience, I was also thinking, do I put these 5 questions at the start of the experience so that, boom, once people see that, they're already engaging from the onset? You really have to put yourself in the shoes of the end user and think, like, how will whatever decision they make get me quicker to my goal? Okay, so that's essentially where this came from. This all started off as a wireframe, which I will show you now. 1 second, let me see my Canva, because you don't just like start like this, right? Like, you have to start from somewhere, and it's usually trash. Okay, here we are. This is the Canva. You guys are going to need to do like some standard wireframing, but I feel like there are tutorials for this on the internet. I'm not going to waste your time trying to teach you that. Okay, so can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you seeing the wireframes? I don't think so. Okay, I'll pop the link in here because, again, I don't know what's happening. Oh, is that showing my screen? Okay, so just click on that. You should be able to just see it without needing to log in.
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay, awesome. So this is what it looked like before. This is not standard wireframes. If somebody asks you to do a wireframe, don't do this. But I just like to be more visual and like try to see things from the experience early on as much as possible. So what you have here is what this whole onboarding experience was initially. You can see everything looks different. So you have the account creation, you have the build your dream partner section, and then you have compatibility quiz. And then at the end, you have like an email right there that says, you've been summoned, waiting for lightning to strike or whatever, something like that. Just again, we didn't really know what this experience would be, right? So at that point, you're really thinking through the experience and you're thinking, okay, compatibility quiz, should this go first? Should that go first? Like, what should everything look like? And this is exactly the reality of being a PM. And you don't have a lot of time to decide, and you have to decide very quickly. And you have to decide possibly with your designer, your UX designer, but ultimately the decision is up to you. And you have to be able to justify why you did that. Right now, you could ask me, well, why did you end up going with the compatibility quiz last? Why do you end up doing this? Why do you end up doing that? And I have to have a reason for everything, because anybody can ask you why at any time. So don't just do things because it looks good or it felt good. There has to be data behind it. There has to be logic behind it, because you're going to need to justify every decision you make. So when you see the Canva here, for example, one of the things that you'd even think about is things like friction. If you want 100,000 people to sign up and you're asking them to verify their emails, that is friction. So there are many different types of friction. You know, when you go on Shein, for example, which I looked at Shein I've never ordered on Shein, I'm proud to say, but I looked at Shein the other day because I was about to order from Shein for Cowboy Carter because I needed my cowboy hat. Went on there, and why were there 50 pop-ups before I could even get to the main point of what I was looking for? I was fighting to shop on their website. Now, of course, the people who shop on Shein are highly motivated to shop on Shein, so this is not an issue. If it was Farfetch, for example, and they had like even 2 pop-ups, people might just be like, whatever, I don't care. I'm not doing this, because those customers, that kind of customer, if you put yourself in the Farfetch customer mentality, you know that this is a luxury shopper. They don't want the nonsense. They don't have time. They just want to get straight to the point, right? But with a Shein shopper, they know that this is affordable clothing. They know that they're going to be able to get a bang for their buck. They don't mind going through. These are things that you really have to put yourself in the shoes of. For example, if you are offering a grant and you have to ask the people who are applying questions for that grant, you can ask them 500 questions and they would still fill it out, because again, these are highly motivated customers. If you were maybe asking somebody to sign up for to support your charity run, whatever, would you ask them 500 questions? No, because I'd be like, well, fuck you and your charity, you know? So fuck them kids or whatever it is you're supporting. So these are things, again, put yourself in the shoes of the customer. And so when it comes to email verification, you will get into companies, particularly startups, that will be on the fence about email verification. Like, oh, I feel like this is friction or whatever. We don't want to encourage this. You have to then understand within you, what are the benefits of email verification? So actually, let's start there. What do you think a benefit of email verification is? If your CEO came to you and said, I feel like sending people out of our website is making them not come back and we're losing traction that way, we're losing the engagement, what would you say in favor of email verification? Or would you agree with him?
You could say it's safe and secure.
In what way?
In that it helps you to match the individual to the account, the email address.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, absolutely. That's a good one.
I think it proves that it's an actual email address and therefore an actual person, and therefore any of the marketing emails or things like that will be going through to somebody. So it, like, validates that that's a valuable user to add to.
I love that. Yeah, great. And when you think about besides marketing, because that's more of a marketing department problem, right? The key thing here is like for your metrics, if you guys are, let's say engagement or retention or growth was one of the things that you were going after, and you have 100 people sign up, and only 2 of those are actual people, and you think that you increased your growth rate by 100, that's obviously false, right? Like that's not an indication. You need to know that you're doing things right, that you're doing everything well. So that's a really good important thing there, that you know you want to verify that this is a real person for your metrics as well. Gloria, do you have any? That's okay.
My thing's already been said. Sorry.
Okay, no worries. If anything comes to mind, just yeah, share it at any point in time. So yeah, so these are things that you have to think about when it comes to this. So yeah, that's what our Canva looked like, and then now we have our Figma that looks very different to it. So now that you understand the scope, or I guess the goal of what we're trying to achieve, we're trying to create a fancy wait list to get 100,000 people to show interest in this app. And when they do show interest in this app, only then will we build an app. And it was actually not having money to build an app that made me get this idea. Like everyone has app fatigue. Nobody wants to download another thing. Why don't we make this like quote unquote matchmaking and go off the beaten path in a sense? Like, you know, why don't we do something completely different? And so that's why we're doing it this way. So let's go back to our ticket writing. As the PM, obviously you would have come up with the strategy for how to go to market. This is what we call a go-to-market strategy, the 100,000, the wait list, the blah, 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 all of that. That's what we call a go-to-market. So you'd have come up with this, and then now you have to write tickets for your designer, for your developer. But like right now, we're going to focus on developer tickets, because the way I like to work is probably different from the way other PMs work. I like to work with the designer, but obviously I have final say, but it's like I'm every step of the way, I'm including the designer. So any ticket I'm writing, the designer has already seen and they're already aware of it. Okay, so let's look at our different work type. So we have our task. Well, or maybe let's start from here. Let's start from our Figma instead. Can you zoom in the Figma? Who's got the Figma? If you just share your screen again, yeah, just zoom in for me to the first bit.
Individual?
Yeah. Okay, so what do we see there? That is obviously the first page. There should be a landing page, but that is, we were supposed to launch last week and I said, let's put it on hold because I hate the landing page. So we're doing that again. So let's just skip that landing page bit. So there should be a landing page, but then let's just go straight to summoning your dream partner starts with being real. Now we already have designs for this. We want to know what is our user's name and what is their email. What kind of ticket do you think this would suit between these 4? Is it a bug?
No.
No. Is it a story?
No.
Was that a yes or a no?
No, I think it's a task.
It's a task. Okay, why do you think it's a task?
Because the story and the bug would require some information or something to have already happened, whereas this is going from like the beginning stage. And I don't know what the epic one is.
Interesting. The story can happen without information, but you're right, it's a task. And the key reason it's a task is that a story is essentially you creating a whole new feature, right? And we'll come across stories here. A task is more like a simple thing, like implement email verification. That's just a task for the developer, okay? So that's a good example of a task, because you don't need to tell a story about email verification. That's a standard thing. It's a standard tool that already exists. They can just take that and easily do it. A story starts more like, as a user, I would like to, and we'll see some of those as well. So let's have a look. For this first one, we have user verification instruction, okay? you go straight into a description. The user message instructing the user to verify their email. Okay, this is actually a fix. Sorry, let's just move on from that. Ignore me. Text change, blah, 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 blah. Let me see if I can find a good example of a task. Let me see if I can search one up. Okay, no, I can't. So let's just make a whole new one. Cool. So let's call our summary implement email verification. Okay, so I'm not really starting right from the beginning here, but just assume. Now we need a description. And our description for a task doesn't need to be as a user or anything like that. It's just simple. Users need to be able to verify, or we need to be able to verify users' emails at sign up. Email verification should occur after the user has provided their basic information. We can say name and date of birth. Email verification should occur in frame 2. Frame 2, you see the designs, that's frame 1, frame 2, frame 3. Each page is a frame. Okay. It's frame 2, right? I can't actually see the screen, but I'm just assuming it is. What's your email? So we've requested their email. So many of your partners starts with being real. Okay, so they give us their email. We ask them. I don't think this is how it is in real life. Sorry. It actually does go in frame 2, and then we continue the rest of the questioning. So we can just do it the way it is in the design. That's fine. So email verification should occur after frame 2. After frames 1 and 2, let's say. And then what you'll do is you'll go on the Figma, you take a screenshot. There actually is a feature that lets Figma just sort of like, lets you kind of just connect to Figma and just select which frame you want. But you can take a screenshot and just drag that into here. And then what you want to do is, if this is part of an epic, you select the epic from this list, from your list of epics. Let's pretend it's part of an epic, maybe. Oh, well, no, we'll have to create an epic. That's fine. You select your sprint. There's going to be, the sprints are going to be by number. The first set of projects that you do within your first 2 weeks are sprint 1, and so on and so forth. By the time you join a company, they probably will be in like sprint 100 and something. So yeah, you just continue from there. So you select your sprint. If it's going to be the next sprint, because you might be planning for the sprint ahead, or if it's going to be the current sprint, you select that. And then you do your story point estimate, which we're going to talk about later. And that story point estimate essentially tells you how much effort is required for that task. Okay, so for a task like this, it probably will be a 5, maybe more, depending on the intricacies of the back end. But you'll get used to weighing stories after a while. It's not something that you're going to grasp immediately. Okay, and then you create. So it's relatively easy. You just click create right there. And that's it. That's your ticket done. Okay. So let me discard this real quick. Let's have a look at a different example. This is a text change. after the designer already designed everything, I kind of hated some of the wording. And so I said, let's change that. So let's look at this example of this. It says text change relationship type options. Before it said an open relationship or a serious relationship. And I didn't like that because an open relationship can be a serious relationship. So what you have there, when you're making a change, you make sure you explain the current behavior and then the desired behavior. This is called a desired behavior. So even though I didn't say desired behavior, that's the standard language that you use. Current behavior, desired behavior. So you say in the current behavior, the relationship type options displayed are an open relationship, a serious relationship, and then updated copy requirements or desired behavior, a serious relationship, or I'm exploring, okay? No visual changes needed aside from replacing the copy. I know that this text sounds pedantic and it sounds like you're kind of like, it will be obvious to you, but you need to make sure that anybody coming to this ticket can understand what was required. And if people don't understand, it will literally be your fault. It will be expensive to fix in terms of time and money because all the developers are getting a day rate. So make sure, and I'm talking day rates like £800 a day. Okay, so make sure your tickets are very, very clear and nobody can come back to you and say this wasn't clear. Okay, let's look at another example before we, because I will give you, I guess, homework in a sense to go and try and do this. So it's let's look at another. This is an example that happens because the onboarding was already done by the developer. So after he's done it, after my co-founder's done it, I've gone into it to try the experience out as the user. And I started to notice some things pop up. And this is very standard, okay? One of the things I noticed was that when you click on the previous and next buttons, they weren't really responsive. Maybe you click like 5 times to 10 times before anything happens. That can be because of a bug. That can be because of whatever, we don't know, okay? That's his problem to know. All you need to know is from the user's perspective. So I've now described the problem, okay? So we see the previous and next buttons in the onboarding flow are intermittently unresponsive. Users are required to refresh the page or navigate backwards via the browser. So you have to click on the arrow to go back instead of just being able to, click previous. So this is a bug. This is a bug ticket, okay? And this is how you write a bug ticket. I know that I already wrote this in the course, but just to refresh your memory, this is important because every ticket is structured differently, okay? We've seen how a task works. We've seen how current behavior, like changes work, current behavior, desired behavior. Now we're looking at how a bug works. You explain the problem, and then you give the developer the steps to reproduce the problem. This is key language. Steps to reproduce means that you're telling the developer what he has to do to go back and create the same experience that you saw or that you experienced so that he can identify where the problem is. He or she or they, whatever. Excuse me. So this is what I've done. I've said, go to someone onboarding. Okay, so there's a link. Progress through a few screens. He's just like going, so I'm telling him. Attempt to click next or previous. The buttons occasionally fail to register the action. In some cases, a return to previous pages is needed for buttons to work again. So in some cases, you can click previous, like you go to the previous page, and then the buttons start to work again. So you can click the arrows for them to start to work again. But now let's look at the expected behavior. The expected behavior is that the next button should consistently work. It should always work. The user should not have to be clicking 100 times. Previous should consistently return to the prior step. No refresh or browser, it should be needed. You shouldn't have to swipe left on your browser completely. Okay, so these are all the observed behavior, different observed behavior. Buttons slowly respond to clicks. Sometimes only one button works. Other times both are unresponsive. You have to be explicit. You have to literally walk it like you're talking to a dummy. Okay. And that is how you write a bug ticket. You see this text change ticket again. Current option. Yes, I'd like to desired option. Again, just make sure you're explaining current, desired. Another thing that I do sometimes is also give them context for why I'm doing this. Okay. Let me see if I can find one where I've done that. This is just micro copy. This is just the little text. So, okay, so you see this is a good example. The current copy in the height selection UI reads, the tallest I would date is, that was a stupid thing. This is misleading and inconsistent with the actual selection logic. The copy should indicate the minimum height a user would consider dating. Okay, so then we said the shortest I would date is, and then we ended up changing it anyways. But like, this is just an example of like, you're telling the developers why you're doing what you're doing. Let's look at a more complex case and then we can maybe I'll just give you guys the homework because I'm conscious of your time. So Gloria, can you scroll down to just slightly down to the screen with just below, scroll to the right a little bit where you have the values question, so the lightning round. Yeah, just scroll more to the right. I don't think I can click on this.
Huh?
1 second.
What values matter most in your dream partner?
No, just more to the right. So the 50-50 question, like the who pays on the first date, right?
First date.
Here. So what we did here is something that we call gamification. So gamification is just honestly just trying to add little things that feel like a game. They have reward systems in them to get people to engage further. So you will have gamification experiences and a lot of business to customer products because you're not there with the customer. So you kind of have to keep them engaged throughout the process. Could we have just made a form that is like endless? Actually, this whole thing could have been a type form, right? Like this whole thing could have just been a scroll down or whatever, but will that tell us what we really need? No, it won't, because we need to see people really engaging with the product itself. So what you're seeing here is a form of gamification, and it's a lightning round where we say, okay, we're going to ask you some questions and you have to answer really quickly. That turns on some dopamine in your customer's brain. And there are so many different kinds of gamification experiences that I would like you guys to start looking out for in your day-to-day. TikTok does that to you a lot. Instagram does that to you a lot. Every product you're using, by the time you start to see the behind the scenes of how these things are done, some of it is actually very unethical, and it just is what it is. We're all addicted to our phones now. So this is a form of gamification that lights up that dopamine part of your customer's brain that makes them go, even if they feel like they're above games, they're still going to play. Like, it's just human nature. So what we have here is like, we're saying, okay, this is our lightning round now. And then we're asking all these sort of like crazy questions. Who pays on the first date? And then the thing starts counting down, right? So you start counting down. Would you date someone with children? It starts counting down again. And you have to think, oh, like I really want to answer fast. But what that's doing for me is that it's getting you closer to being one of my 100,000 people that I need to sign up. Okay. So that's your goal here, like to get people to finish everything. We don't want people abandoning the form halfway, because that tells us that we lost their interest. Now, if I had put this compatibility quiz at the start of the questionnaire, what we would have for Alice, what we would have there is, when we're writing our tickets, that becomes a user story, because this is a feature. Okay, so even if it's the first thing ever and we didn't have context for it, it still has to be written as a feature. So let's look at a feature ticket, for example. Let's see. No, this is not it, actually, because I think I had like a full one for that logic, that bit. Let me see. Okay, this is a feature ticket. Oh my God, this is so hard. Let's just look at the lightning round. It's fine. There was a lightning round ticket specifically just for explaining the feature, but we can just do without it. You guys get it. So we have our description where I'm saying implement a 10-second countdown timer. This is specifically for this 10-second countdown timer, because before this page, these pages were just standard pages with nothing to them. So I added, first of all, that break. If we just zoom out just a little bit so that we can see the break in the form. Yeah, so you see that the break where it says you're almost ready to summon your dream partner. I said, let's add that. And then let's break that up into that lightning round experience. So what I ended up doing was just to make that more fun, let's add that countdown timer to it, right? So this is me saying, implement the 10-second countdown timer on each screen within the lightning round portion of onboarding. And then we explain the expected behavior that we want from that. Once the user lands on each lightning round question, a timer should start counting down from 10 seconds. If the user does not select an answer within 10 seconds, the app should automatically proceed to the next question. We know that the user will select an answer within 10 seconds, all things being equal. It shouldn't be hard to just like, who pays on the first date? That's an easy question, you know? But the thing is, if the user did want to go back, they would still be able to go back and start that whole thing again. So even if they tapped on the wrong thing because their finger slipped, they can still go back and have that experience, okay? So these are just examples of like the different tickets that you'll see. And just to give you some context, if you go to the end, like right at the end, yeah, where you have that red card, exactly. This is like a reward for people completing it. It's not really a reward because they don't get shit from it, but it's like a little, oh, I just went through this and like, you know, my dream partner is this guy, and it has like these really funny things that normally you would work with marketing and like producing the copy for that, or, you know, whatever it's going to say. So it says, you're a woman who knows what she wants, or at least isn't figuring it out in real time on a dating app. You're sharp, grounded, and emotionally fluent. You value loyalty, intellect, ambition. This is a summary that takes from the actual form. And then it's honestly standard stuff. There's a way to do this with ChatGPT and without ChatGPT. You don't have to use AI for everything. AI is not a silver bullet, but AI can easily do stuff like this where you tell it, you prompt it on what to give the users, and it just regurgitates something that will be standard for everyone. Because what man doesn't want a woman who is loyal and values intellect and grounded and, you know, not addicted to her phone? I mean, yeah, so this is standard stuff. You can just split it out into 4 categories, 5 categories, which is what I did, and just said, ChatGPT, spit out this in this tone, in this way, whatever. So essentially they get this card and they think to themselves, wow, I just completed this. I can share this to my Instagram stories. I can share this on Twitter to be like, oh, like, you know, will many people share? Probably not. But the point is the dopamine has been received at that point. Excuse me. Okay, so sorry, just to wrap up. What we ended up doing is, of course, generating the shareable card, which is in progress, as you can see. When he finishes it, he will move it to done, and it will go on this board from here to here. Okay, does that make sense? Oh, you can't even see my screen, can you?
No, I can't.
Okay, so this is what I was looking at. This is what I was talking about, sorry. So I wrote in the ticket, generate shareable card for social media. I didn't give him a description. That is bad form. Don't ever do that. They will call you incompetent. It will be like a cardinal sin. So literally put something in there, even though it doesn't feel like there should be anything. And then you have like, this is in progress right now because he's working on it. But when he's done with it, it will move from being a shareable card here to do in progress, sorry, generate shareable card. And it will literally just move into done. I'm not gonna move it though. Okay, so that's it. That's those are like the different things. With the epics, what you're essentially doing is you're just creating, I guess, a group of, this is an epic right here. logic for AI in post-onboarding description. So you see this ticket. This is a very detailed ticket because an epic has to have a lot of details. And then an epic can have sub-tickets as well. So when we click on logic for AI, oh God, it doesn't even let me do that, does it? Logic for AI, AI logic. This is the epic right here. Okay, so you will have a description for the epic. In this case, we said to give some result to the user, some immediate benefit, instead of telling them they did all this just to get on a wait list. That's the point. So you're explaining why we're doing this. To get them to share it to their social media so more friends can hear about it and learn about Summon. So the description is like, we want to create a GPT-driven logic to dynamically generate the final dream partner summary card. And these are the tickets. So any tickets you create, which you click here, any tickets you create will get added to this epic. So an epic is just a collection of different tickets, user stories, bugs, whatever, like it falls under that topic. So our epic contains this right here. Okay. So with the AI logic, you can see it's a very detailed ticket, even though it's a user story. You have like all these different, so, well, it's a task actually, sorry. So you have all these different things that the developer needs to know. You really have to think through each step of the way. You can read this ticket. I'm going to send it to you guys so that you can see like a good example, I guess, of a AI logic ticket. So you have like, it's very descriptive. You have all those details in there, and it essentially explains my reasoning for what I would want to see in real life. And if you don't have AI, there's many ways around it. Okay, guys, I'm conscious that we are at the top of the hour. So here's what we're going to do. You will have access to that Figma. Actually, rather than the Figma, let me even give you an easier way to do this. 1 second, Summon. Personal, perhaps. Right. I will give you the actual onboarding experience. What I want you to do for next time is to go through this list, or go through this onboarding experience as if you're QA testing it. Okay. So you don't need the Figma for this. You don't have to use the Figma. This is the actual part that the developer has built. Don't look at it as if he knows everything, because he has probably missed something, and so have I. It is extremely normal to miss something. In fact, when I was testing features, I would send it to family, friends, whoever, because you never know what you could have missed. It could have even been something glaringly obvious. But also, you're not looking at things that you might have missed that are on the design. What you're looking for is, if you are the user, what part of this experience could be improved upon? What part of this experience would frustrate you? What part of this experience is making it harder to get to our goal of 100,000 users? Is there friction in this experience that is unnecessary? When you were putting your email in and getting your email verified, was it a long process? Did that put you off if you were a first-time user? Okay, so what I really like you to do is put yourself in the shoes of whoever's going to land on this, and anything that you see, write that down, make a ticket for it after. Okay, so take a screenshot, you write it down, you make a ticket. You can do that in your Jira, in your own personal Jira. And that's what we're going to talk about next time. And you absolutely have to find something, because there is something. There's going to be some shit in there. So if you don't find something, you know that you're doing something wrong. Okay? Questions?
Nope. It seems like it's going to be fun.
Okay, it is fun. But the other thing I will say is, when you are a PM, you should always have questions. It's not bad to not have questions right now, but let's get in the practice of always having questions, because that means that you have gone a surface level deeper to come up with something. I know it's so weird, because when I moved from finance to tech, I was like, why the hell do I have to ask a question? If you're not asking a question, there's something wrong. So every time we have an opportunity for questions, literally think on the spot, what is it that I could be missing? Because there's definitely stuff missing, okay? I try to be as comprehensive as possible and anticipate your questions, but most of the time there is a question that you haven't asked yet. But if you remember, or if you think of something, just email, the email that I'm talking to you from, lewisobarbara@gmail.com. Email me, ask me whatever you need to ask me, but ideally figure it out on your own, because that's the homework, right? So yeah, just do your tickets. Make sure you're taking a screenshot. Make sure you're taking a screenshot. Make sure you're adding all the necessary information. Do not use ChatGPT. I will know if you use ChatGPT.
Will you send us this link to our email?
No, because I don't want anybody else to have it. It's just for the people on this call who have the context. So yeah, make sure you save the link, click on it, add it. I will just give you time to do that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Wait. Onboarding personal details, is on it?
What? What was that?
Is it the onboarding email?
Yes. Do you see my screen that I'm
Yep.
sharing? Yeah, that's what that link should take you to. The latest onboarding personal details. Yeah.
Okay, great.
So just go through it, put your email, just do it like a standard user. Okay. And I would say, actually, I'm not gonna say shit. That's do your thing. Good luck.
Thank you.
Really being
Thank
a
you.
PR. Good luck, everyone. All right. Enjoy your week. I'm so sorry I was late today. And thank you for being a great, I know that there was a lot that you had to download today, but yeah, just thank you for listening through it.
That's fine. Thank you very much.
you.
Thank you for your time. Have a good
Bye.
one, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.